Hello, everyone. It's December 26th, the day after Christmas. I'm glad many of you are here. That's really awesome and cool. And it's funny. I have to laugh at this because let me find it here because I have to pull back my comments now. Um, Lorraine said, "There's a new Christmas Death in Paradise episode, and I'm a huge fan. I own all of the seasons, and I wrote her, I gotta go because I want to see that. I want to see Death in Paradise. That's my favorite. Oh, anyway, yeah, no, I'm gonna stay here just for you guys because uh, I'll find it later. I will. So anyway, this is going to be an interesting show, and I was trying to figure out what to do for uh, this particular Sunday show because it's a holiday season, and I'm thinking, do I really want to do a show, something really horrifying about a child murderer or serial killer? And so I asked my folks over at Patreon during the hangout on Wednesday, what do you think? And I threw out the Anthrax case, and that was a hit. So hold on a second, I got a cough. Excuse me. And I'll tell you about that in a sec. Hold on a second. So the anthrax thing was, everybody said anthrax. I'm like, okay, that's great because I actually have an interesting connection to the anthrax case. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second after I stop this cough. But now that I've decided to do the anthrax case, it's gotten kind of weird because, the anthrax case was an airborne thing where you breathed it in and then it got into your lungs and killed you. And we're struggling with that right now with the coronavirus. Now, this new Omicron thing that's rolling through very quickly. And in the last week, I got a cough again. So hold on a second, guys. This is great. Hi there. Two of my family members have contracted COVID. And unfortunately, I was in contact with them because I live right next door. And so... and then I went to a friend's house for Christmas Eve because I didn't know, nobody had tested yet in my family. So, yes, one of them had tested. So I'm not going over there. So I'm going to go to my friend's house. And his roommate walks into the kitchen and goes, I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? And while I ran out of the room and while I was sitting in the other room, they did a test on him and he came back positive. So I'm like, Jesus, somebody just told me don't take the Lord's name in vain. They wrote me that. And so I do apologize. And oh, shucks. And so I came home. I'm like, great. Now this dude has contaminated me. And now I find out not only my daughter has COVID, but my granddaughter has COVID. And on Tuesday, I was taking care of her and she was sitting in my lap and she was sitting in my lap, yeah. And so we were watching the Clifford the dog movie, and Clifford was then sent away, the big dog, was sent away to China on a boat, and she burst into tears, and so she cried all over me and snotted all over me. And now she's positive for COVID. So, and all three of them have symptoms. They're all sick. So it's not like they just tested positive. They're all sick. So hold on a second. Now I got to wipe my nose because, okay. This is going well. So anyway, I just want to let you know I have my test kit here. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I've been taking my temperature. So far, not too bad. I've never snorted anything up my nose, but in my life. But I'm snorting betadine up my nose because it's supposed to help kill any coronavirus. That's a theory anyway. So I'm snorting that and gargling it. So I'm doing that. And then if I get coronavirus, I've got my azithromycin, which I managed to find in India and in Mongolia. And I don't know, but I got this hydroxychloroquine, which is people argue over whether it's good or not. But somebody, I was visiting with somebody, and we were going to a movie, and then on a street corner, he said, "Here," and it's like the first drug deal I've ever done in my life. So anyway, I have hydroxychloroquine. So. So the important thing about this is, if you don't see me on Wednesday for the hangout, you know why. If you don't see me next Sunday for the live show, you know why. So hopefully, I do not have COVID, even though I've had 3 exposures in 1 week to people who clearly have COVID and have symptoms. So not going well. And I got to wipe my nose. Sorry. And this is, you remember last week I did a thing on how I don't have any Kleenex in the house. Okay, this is like paper towel. So my nose is running now. Oh my God. Okay. So anyway, now to COVID. To anthrax. Okay, wait a minute. Let me do my duty, the thing I need to do every week, because I do need to keep the channel going in case I survive. If I don't survive, it won't matter. But hey, if you're here today and I come back next week in one piece, I do want you to support the channel. So here are the ways to do it. You can join Patreon, and you can, just send in $1. It's $1 a month, or $3 a month, or $7 if you want to join the live hangout during the week. You can just subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. Just subscribe, share with your friends, like all that kind of stuff. Hit the bell if you want notifications, and that helps the channel grow. And then you can always buy a book. Okay, that's that. So I've done my needful. So now let's get back to anthrax. So as far as anthrax goes, one of the reasons I was so involved in this particular case, and why it's so meaningful to me, is, let me just put this picture up. Anthrax. Okay, so, oh my God, excuse me, this is gonna be a fun show. My nose is not a good thing. Oh, fun. Okay, so I hope it's not my last show, but if it is, I love you, my children. All of you are wonderful. I love you, my granddaughter. All of you are wonderful. In case I'm not around, and I do not actually say that lightly, but just in case I'm not, I've moved on, and you have YouTube to remember me by, and you have this. I love you all. Okay, I'm done with that. Okay, so now, one of the reasons this is such a meaningful thing to me is that in 2001, when the anthrax attacks happened, I'm going to explain those in a minute. I'm just going to do a real short piece here before I explain what the anthrax attacks were, if you're not familiar with them. I was just starting television. I had done a bit on Chandra Leahy, and I was just starting my very, very, long television career. And I went on Fox and did a bit on, they asked me about the anthrax attacker. And I'll talk to you about my actual profile of the anthrax attacker a little later in the show. But I did profile the anthrax attacker. And then a few days later, I went to my mailbox, and I have a UPS box, which I have purposely for the fact that I don't want people to find me. I have stalkers, I have haters. Mostly the stalkers are concerning. I don't want them to know where I live. I don't want them to show up. So I've always had a UPS box for my company so that I can go someplace and nobody's going to be there. Nobody knows where I live, except a few people who I love. And I went there, and I got this letter. I'm going to cover up the one. I'm going to cover up the name on this because I'll tell you why later. But so I pick up this letter. Can you see it? At the time, I called my agency the Sexual Homicide Exchange. I now call it the Pat Brown Criminal Profiling Agency. But at the time, I was called the Sexual Homicide Exchange. And if you can see, it's coming out of New Jersey. And if you can see, it's coming out of Monmouth, New Jersey. And it's coming out in, what was it? November of 2001. So I go to my mailbox, and I get my mail. And you know how you don't wait to go home to open things up? I got in the car and said, oh, I wonder what this is. And I ripped open this in the car. And I went, what's this? I took out the letter. And then I started reading the letter. Let me show you this is one of the letters. I have it in this for possible fingerprints. I get this letter. I start reading, Dear People, and it's People Magazine. And there's a weird crap in here. And there's 4 different letters with weird crap that the guy had sent these letters to all these media places. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And then I realized that, one of the anthrax letters had gone to America Media, which is a tabloid, which is National Enquirer. And I'm thinking, and then I'm sitting in my car going, thinking, oh my God, I got anthrax. I mean, that was a really scary moment. And I mean, it's not like I saw anthrax in here, but, I thought to myself, should I race to the hospital? What should I do? Stupidly, I didn't. I should have actually gone. But anyway, this was very, fine. Okay, this was very frightening to have this arrived right after I did the Fox show where I analyzed the anthrax guy, and it came out of New Jersey. It came out of the location that they theorized the anthrax guy was sending the mail. It had block printing, and the guys had all these weird letters to the media, which was part of the anthrax dude. So I'm going to get back to more about this in a minute. But that was pretty freaky, don't you think? So that was a very scary moment in my very early career. So I will point, I'll stop here for a second. Molly says, hey, that printing looks a little similar to the printing on the anthrax letters. I will get back to that in a little while because that's, yeah, Christine says, that's a hair-raising event. I'd be scared. Yeah, I was actually. I kind of like freaked out, So anyway, and by the way, for those of you who said you can see and hear me, thank you very much because I appreciate that. So I forget to ask that, and I always do in a live show because you never know what's happening on a live show, whether you're just and everybody's like, is she talking? Oh, and Annalisa says Omicron is said to be very mild. Yes, but we don't know whether the Omicron and the Delta are overlapping right now. I'm not sure who's got what. Annalisa says, be sure to take zinc and vitamin D. I'm not gonna, I don't know if HCQ is actually, I don't have a cardiac abnormality, but I am taking zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D, and vitamin C. So I'm doing all of those, but oh, my nose is running again. Sorry, guys. I'm going to use my fancy Kleenex. Oh, Christ. Oh, sorry. I took the Lord's name in vain again. I'm really sorry, folks. I don't mean to. It's a bad habit, apparently. But I appreciate the person who says don't do that. So anyway, all right. So let's get to the anthrax thing. So that was a really freaky thing for me. I just gone on Fox. I gave this profile, and then a few days later I get this letter from this guy from New Jersey, from the local area, and I'm like, holy God. And I'm going to explain what happened with the FBI later on, because one of the issues in this case is, did the FBI ever get the right guy? Did the FBI do a proper job? And this is what's so fascinating about this case. I never say that when I have a suspect, and this was my suspect, that I have the right guy. There are often many suspects. And when you're a profiler or a detective, you need to be realistic about that. You can have sometimes multiple connections and it's just not the guy. But you should check it out because it might be the guy. And you want to do due diligence. I love the word due diligence, because if you don't do due diligence, you might completely just ignore the person that is really the guy. And I did turn this information over to the FBI. And I will talk to you about that in a little bit. Let me get to just what happened. Okay, what happened in general with the anthrax case, in case you're very unfamiliar with it. Okay, of course I'll use Wikipedia because I'm lazy, and this is actually a very good Wikipedia article. Oh, and by the way, in the link below, I have the guy Simon, who I like. He does the casual criminologist thing. His name is Simon Whistler. He also does a thing on biographies, and he does one on the anthrax case. And Dr. Ivins, who was the one who was suspected of, in the end, the FBI suspected of being the guy. And he does a very funny, Simon. I just enjoy listening to him. He gives a good rendition of what happens. He's got a great sense of humor. He's not an analyst. He's not a crime analyst. And sometimes I think he's off on his vague analysis, but that's okay. It's fun to listen to, and he gives some good information. So I did link it below because I enjoy listening to him, even if I don't always agree with him. But he's funny. He's just funny. Okay, so okay. Now I just took off my sweater, not because I have the temperature, but because I'm under the lights. Okay. All right. So what about the anthrax attacks? Let me tell you about them in case you just have no clue, especially if you're from another country. And I do have my wonderful folks here from so many great countries. And, we who live in the United States of America seem to think everybody knows everything about the United States of America, like we're the only people who exist in the world. And I'm a big traveler, so I have a great deal of love for other countries. And the fact that they have huge events and huge cases over there, which we're in America, we're like, huh, I've never heard of that. Okay, so dudes, if you live in America, some people around the world have never heard of our issues either. So, let's be fair, equal. Okay, that's sign language, equal. Anyway, all right, let's talk about the anthrax attacks. What were they? The 2001 anthrax attack. So we're talking 20 years ago. And that's when I try to explain some of my information. You see this crap I have here? This is just my paper, some of my paper crap, and I have tons of stuff on the computer, and it's been 20 years. And so there's a few things I'm like, what actually do I know? What did I think back then? And I'm going to tell you, I don't really know, because I was doing some investigations, but I turned it over to the FBI, and I really wasn't expecting to do any more. So it's been a long time, 2 decades. So I have a few missing pieces in my own head. So, but it's been 2 decades. All right. So in 2001, the anthrax attacks, also known as Amerithrax. Actually, I've never called it Amerithrax, but okay. Occurred in the United States over the course of several weeks, beginning on September 18th, 2001, 1 week after the September 11th terrorist attacks. The letters containing anthrax spores were mailed to several news media offices and to Democrat Senators Tom Daschle and Patrick, I think it's Leahy, but I might be wrong, Leahy, Leahy, killing 5 people and infecting 17 others. According to the FBI, the ensuing investigation became, quote, one of the largest and most complex in the history of law enforcement. I don't doubt that it was one of the largest and complex. But wait till you see what I have to say. I'm sorry, I gotta laugh because seriously. So you were 17 when you were working on this case. Are you looking at my fake thumbnails, which are done with where I make myself look 20 years younger in Hollywood? Yeah, thank you. What a nice person, or a suck up. I'm not sure which one, but anyway, sure. No. Anyway, that was just funny. But this was a big, complex case. It's very, very difficult. And because of, I got to cover this up again. Because of my letter, I have an insight to this case, which is very, very concerning. If you're going to say this is the biggest, most complex, and then I was involved in it this way, and I have something to tell you, which makes me question how well they actually analyzed this particular case. So hang in for that. All right. So now they had 2 major suspects in this case. A major suspect in the early years was a blow weapons. Sorry, I look like an L. Bioweapons expert Steven Hatfill, who was eventually exonerated. And they went after Steven Hatfill like you would not believe. He was an expert. And supposedly at the time, he also had gone to the doctor and got a prescription for Cipro. Now, supposedly it was for a sinus condition, but somebody can joke anytime, well, it'll help you with anthrax. But, I worked in the hospital and I saw lots of Cipro prescriptions going out for normal people who obviously were not sending anthrax through the mail. So because of his bioweapons expertise and the fact he worked in certain labs and he had the Cipro, this particular person, I'm not going to get into she did a whole analysis of the case, and she sort of pointed to somebody like him, and the FBI went after him. They released information to the media, and he ended up with a $5 million payout from the DOJ because they never proved anything connecting him, and he was not happy. Now, mind you, the dude had a few issues. He supposedly went for his PhD. He was in his doctorate program and turned in something and didn't quite get it, but then claimed he did and had some forged paperwork claiming he had a PhD. So, we're talking about a person then who is not honest and totally ethical. So I don't have a problem with the FBI looking at Steven Hatfill because he's connected to the industry. he actually has a bit of a problem there with honesty. So is there more, but the iceberg thing, is there more below the surface that we don't know about? So I think that's perfectly reasonable. They looked at him. I don't think it's reasonable they leaked a whole lot of information to the press and basically went after him in a way that destroyed his career and his just don't do that. Do not do that. But they did that. So that's why he's got $5 million in his pocket. So that was their first big suspect. Now, they next had another. Now, this was, by the way, when did they have his suspect? It was like 2002. And that's going to be important because when did I get my letter? I got my letter on November 2001. Only 2 months after the attack, after 9/11, and only 1 month after the Anthrax attacks. I got mine right after I did the original profile on Fox News 1 month later. Nobody was a suspect then. And I'll read you some stuff about how no one was a suspect then, not even Hatfill. So do you think they looked into my suspect? We're going to get back into that. I'm going to also ask you whether you think they should have looked into my suspect or they should have just tossed it. Okay? I'm going to get into that in a little bit. That's a good point. Kay says, back in the day, I was prescribed Cipro for a UTI. And because you were the Anthrax attacker. I know. It was you. You see, that's interesting information. Please don't misunderstand. Interesting information is different from accusation. Interesting information in an investigation. You want to add all these things together to decide what lead you should take. But you don't go out and accuse somebody based on the fact you took Cipro. That's ridiculous. So yes, it's interesting. Investigate some more, but don't lie. Don't tell people that it's the Anthrax guy because he took Cipro. That's wrong. Okay, so let me see here now. All right, so that was the early dude, but that was after my letter, and I'll get into that. Then a major focus in the early years. Okay, it was Hatfill. Okay, then he was exonerated. Well, exonerated in the sense that they didn't have anything on him. They never had a connection to the actual crime. He still could have been the dude. They just didn't have anything to prove it. So he was exonerated. Okay. Then Bruce Edwards Ivins, a scientist at the government's biodefense labs at Fort Detrick in Frederick, Maryland, became a focus around April 4th, 2005. On April 11th, 2007, Ivins was put under periodic surveillance, and an FBI document stated he was an extremely sensitive suspect in the 2001 Anthrax attacks. But on July 29th, 2008, he committed suicide with an overdose of Tylenol. Now, so he's dead. Okay, he's dead. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Ivins, just to be fair to the FBI on this. Ivins had issues. Ivins was a brilliant scientist and a crackpot. Okay, he was possibly psychopathic. There's actually not even, I'm not making that stuff up. If you go to the link and you look at what Simon has to say about it, you're going to see how the guy has issues. So he grew up in a rather screwed up home. He went to college and he got obsessed with a sorority and the women of the sorority, and he went in and stole stuff from the sorority, and he stalked a particular woman in the sorority, and he then supposedly he started going to a psychiatrist saying he wanted to kill women. This is during the Anthrax times or after the Anthrax attacks. He wanted to kill women and all kinds of weird stuff. And one of the women who was stalked during from the sorority said, as soon as she heard about the Anthrax thing, she's like, that's the dude. It's Ivins. It's Dr. Ivins. And the people he worked with thought he was quirky, but they didn't think they thought he was kind of a mild-mannered fellow, like Clark Kent, But he had a psychopathy, a very deep, weird, bizarre psychopathy. He and eventually committed suicide. Now, did he commit suicide because he was guilty of the Anthrax attacks, or did he commit suicide because he was hounded by the FBI and is already such a screw up and has so many other problems? He just decided to say, heck with it. I don't know. But he became the second the last anthrax suspect. Okay, so theoretically, the federal prosecutors declared Ivins as sole culprit based on DNA evidence leading to an anthrax vial in his lab. Okay, so they closed their investigation in 2010. And you think, now, if you go further in all of the great Wikipedia article, which is actually pretty good, you're going to find a whole bunch of other interesting things. Now, I'm going to point some of those out right now. Okay, so Ivins is dead. Was he the guy? Okay, let me go and show you some of the things said after Ivins was dead. Okay, let me see if I can pull these up. Okay. Originally, they said Ivins was the only one who could have had that particular type of anthrax. And I'm not going to get. Okay, let me pull this off a second. I'm not going to get into all the biology of anthrax because I'm kind of an idiot, and scientifically, I'm an idiot. And when you're an investigator or a profiler, you got to know where you don't know crap. So if you don't know crap, you need to find people who do. So you want to get the experts in on this. And so I'm going to read you some stuff, and I don't know what's true. Now, the reason I don't know what's true is because, first of all, I'm a scientific idiot. That's not my thing. If I need help, I'm going to find help to understand something in a case. In this particular instance, what's interesting is we have varying opinions. And it's kind of like when you're in a court of law and you've got the prosecution says one thing and the defense says another thing, and you're like, how are they opposite? So this happened in this case. Originally, it was supposedly the Ames virus, and it could only come from his lab, that it was his vial of Ames stuff from his lab at Fort Detrick. They claimed that over and over and over again. But after he died, a whole bunch of stuff came out that said, maybe that wasn't true. I'm just going to point out a few of them just so you understand how things aren't necessarily as clear and obvious. Okay, so here. Later, the FBI claimed a lone individual could have created the anthrax spores for as little as $2,500 using readily available laboratory equipment. Now, we're basically saying that somebody else other than Ivins could have done it, which I think is kind of interesting. Let's see, there was another thing here. Originally, they had a theory that the spores sent to the center were coated with a thing called fumed silica. All right. And then they said later they had no evidence that the anthrax spores had been coated with fumed silica. Okay, so they did or they didn't. It could only be Ivins, who's a brilliant I don't know what you want to call him, bioweapons dude with Fort Detrick, or it could have been another dude. Could have been somebody else. Okay, let's take a look at something else here. All right, Richard Spurzel, a microbiologist who led the United States Biological Weapons Inspection of Iraq, wrote that the anthrax used could not have come from the lab where Ivins worked. He was skeptical about their argument despite the new evidence presented. He questioned the claim that the powder was less than military grade, blah, blah, blah. So basically he's saying, I don't think it came from the lab. Okay, so there's opinion number, whatever that is. Okay, here's some more information, which is interesting. Okay, let's see. I had something here I wanted to point out. Let me see if I can find it. They hampered by a destruction of large collection of anthrax spores kept over the decades. They're trying to. Okay, that one I'm not finding what I wanted there. Okay, let me move to this one. Okay, doubts about the FBI conclusions. After the FBI announced that Ivins acted alone, many people with a broad range of political views, some of who were colleagues of Ivins, expressed doubts. Reasons cited for these doubts included that Ivins was only one of 100 people who could have worked with a vial used in the attacks, and that's even if that vial was used in the attacks, and that the FBI couldn't place him near the New Jersey mailbox from which the anthrax was mailed. It was mailed out of the Monmouth area, out of a mailbox in Princeton, and he has never been placed near that mailbox. The FBI's own consultant said that the failure to find any anthrax spores in Ivins' house, vehicle, or any of his belongings seriously undermined the case. There were unanswered questions about the FBI's scientific tests and lack of peer review. And they said, I'd say the vast majority of people at Fort Detrick think he had nothing to do with it. More than 200 colleagues attended his memorial service following his death. Okay, then, here we go again. Now they're not sure Ivins did it. And Ivins appears to be a psychopath. Ivins appears to have interesting issues of wanting to kill women, serial killer type of, mentality and ideation. So the guy's kind of creepy as heck. He's got issues, but he also seems very psychotic. So the question, if he's got that going, and my kind of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde personality without much total control, would he be able to completely cover up everything? Or was he just crazy, in the sense that he just talked crap and never did anything except for, he did some stalking stuff. Let me tell you, he did. So we can't take that away. Okay. So now, I got to itch my nose again. My God. I hope I'm here on Wednesday. Okay. Now let me tell you what happened. I want to read just basically what happened when I went on Fox. Okay. So I went on Fox News. So I'm going to go back to where the letters were mailed and some of the other interesting issues about, did the FBI do a real solid investigation? Let me tell you what I said on Fox News. Okay, let me find it. Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, here we go. All right. I went on Fox News. Sorry, one more time. Oh my God. If I don't make it to Wednesday, I guess this one will. This video will be a million. I'll get 1 million views. It won't matter to me. Okay. So anyway, one thing. So I did a Fox interview, and I profiled the Anthrax suspect. Now listen to what I said. He would be connected with Rutgers University in New Jersey or the area surrounding it. Now, Rutgers University. It's 20 years ago, so I'm not exactly sure why I thought certain things, but I believe he was connected around Rutgers University, and the actual stuff was mailed out of Princeton, but that's on the direct train line south from Rutgers to Princeton and then down to Washington, D.C. I believe he would be connected with Rutgers University in New Jersey or the area surrounding it. He would be extremely obsessed with the media and politics. Okay, the media and politics, not just politics, but the media in general. Remember, some of his stuff was sent originally to American Media, which is National Enquirer in Florida, Boca Raton. He was obsessed with the media. Okay, so not just politics, but the media. He would be extremely obsessed with the media and politics. He would have written many letters prior to the anthrax attacks to editors of newspapers and politicians, telling them answers to world problems and getting miffed that he was not receiving proper responses to his helpful opinions. He would ride the train between Trenton and Baltimore, Washington, D.C. So he would be on the train going back and forth, indicating perhaps he did not have a car. Okay? All right. And he would have some strong connection to American Media where the first anthrax letter hit. Okay. Now, my suspect. So I got that letter. Okay. And it was, the letter itself was addressed from 44 Baker Street, Toms River, New Jersey. Now, it was not mailed out of Toms River, New Jersey. And 44 Baker Street, if anybody knows, is Sherlock Holmes. This came to me, and it was out of the Monmouth. It was postmarked Monmouth. Turns out at that point in time, this actually went through. If you mailed from the Princeton mailbox where they where they found the anthrax, it would have gone through the Monmouth facility at that point in time, because other ones were closed down. It would have gone through there. So this one could have been mailed from that particular spot. The actual mailbox, this could have gone through. Okay. Now, the guy sent me these letters. Remember I said the guy be obsessed with the media and American media. This is one of the things. See, Dear People, that was People magazine. This one, let's see. Oh, here's another one. Oprah and Company. He sent one to Oprah. He sent one to People, Oprah. There was one that was just Dear Sir, and I wish I knew what one he sent that to. You'll see that October 13th, 2001. November 23rd, 2001. So, and this one, interesting, June 9th, 2001. So this is before the attacks. This guy sent me 4 different letters, all from 2001, some before the attack and some, I can't remember the date of the attack, right about the attacks. Why would this dude, right after I did why, after I gave that profile on Fox News, would he send me a letter with all those things that he sent to the media? Now, mind you, they were all about women. He was obsessed with women. He was obsessed with Claudia Kirschuk from Morristown, and then he was the Green River Killer, Chandra Leahy. He wanted them to use the Starlight software to catch these real life Hannibal Lecter monsters. I mean, these are long, crazy letters, let me tell you. And he says things. Originally, dear people, originally I meant to send this recommendation to that super sleuth, Jack Maple, who co-wrote The District on Channel 2 CBS TV, but that nobleman passed. Could you please pass this letter on to that team of celebrity detectives that he's associated with? I can't find their addresses. And he goes into Jody, who I can't pronounce her name, Husentrot, from the National Enquirer. The case, that is, please scan this copy of the Jody, and I can't pronounce her name, Husentrot. She was, I think, a newscaster that was murdered. Case, I'm going to do her case one day, from the National Enquirer. Okay, he was saying he wants us to go to about the National Enquirer. He actually sent, I think, the actual picture from the National Enquirer. Okay, and he goes on and he talks about her and about the kidnappings, and then he talks about, oh my God, he's like obsessed with how to catch serial killers. He's obsessed with women who've gone missing. Oh, he talks about, let's see, what's this one? Smuggling people, Russian mobsters and people smuggling tons of drugs in the Caribbean, and just slave concubine breed mares. I mean, the stuff's weird. Let me put it that way. Okay, lots of weird stuff. Now, okay, so generally speaking, I would say, I have this in here, by the way, for fingerprints, but I wasn't recontacted by the FBI on that. However, okay, so I had this, and this creepy dude he was obviously fascinated with the media. And if you remember, it's interesting, Ivins was obsessed with women, and he was kind of fascinated with serial killing. Could this have been Ivins? I don't know. But the point being that some dude sent me these things who was obsessed with the media and sent it after I did the Fox profile. Okay, now I wrote to the FBI. It wasn't like I thought I should ignore. Am I here? Well, that was weird. Am I back, everybody? Because I'm going to just check with you, because I just went blank there. Okay. Does everybody still see me? Am I here? Because everything went black on the screen. It says I'm here, but I just want to check. Somebody tell me if I'm here. Hello. Somebody tell me if you can see me. Okay. Okay. All right. So now also tell me, did you hear everything did you hear everything I said about my Fox News profile and my suspect and all that? Did you all get that? I just want to make sure, because it just went blanked. After you refreshed, isn't that weird? I mean, I didn't refresh anything myself. It just came back. So, but did you hear everything I said about my profile and the letter? I gotta cover this. And the letter that I got, you all heard that, and all about the creepy letters that were involved. Just tell me you heard all of that before I go on. Everybody? Somebody tell me, did you hear everything I said about the letters to People magazine and Oprah and all the women he wanted to save, supposedly, from serial killers and mobs? Please let me know, somebody, because I don't want that to be missing, because it's very important. So let me know. Somebody tell me. And nobody did. We heard everything. Okay, thank you, Martin. Okay. All right, now I'll go on to the FBI letter then. Okay, on November 26th, I wrote a letter to the FBI. Okay? And this is what I said. To the FBI, I retrieved the attached envelope and 4-page staple enclosure on November 26th at my mailbox. I'm not going to go into that. Believing that this letter was from a client or prospective client, I proceeded to open the letter in my vehicle. Because of the unusual nature of the material and then noticing the postmark of Monmouth, New Jersey, I proceeded to examine the letter upon arrival at my home office. A number of concerning issues arose. There was no letter enclosed addressed to me personally. There was no instruction from the sender as to what he wished me to accomplish by the enclosures. The enclosures document the sender's interest in the abduction of women, notably beautiful women. He refers to the missing persons cases of Claudia Kershaw, Amy Bradley, and Chandra Leahy. He believes the women were abducted in a white slavery ring operating out of the Caribbean. The third case he refers to is the Green River case in Washington State. He believes the killer is still out there and will move on to kill a movie starlet. Now, mind you, Ivins was obsessed with sorority women and beautiful sorority women. So that's kind of interesting, but that may not be anything to do with Ivins. I'm going to point that out in a minute. The 4-page document consists of 3 letters to People magazine, Oprah Winfrey, and one other unnamed recipient. The sender appears to believe he has the knowledge of how to solve these cases and hopes the recipients will follow his advice. The sender also refers to a letter writing campaign to wealthy people in order to solicit funding for a computer program for catching criminals, and states he's had 0 results. So this is a guy that has been writing dozens and dozens of letters and not getting a response, which is one of the actual theories about the Anthrax guy, that he had done this before and nobody paid attention to him. The sender exhibits paranoia, conspiracy thinking, grandiosity, and an obsession with unattainable women. Okay, interesting. All right, now, wait a minute, let me see. Okay, there's more to that letter. Hold on a second. I've misplaced the rest of the letter because I'm incompetent. No, here we go. I'm just repeating what my haters will say. Why didn't you have that in the right place? I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so it's a longer letter than I thought. Hold on a second. I have it on my computer, but it's just hard to see, and so I'm trying to read the actual copies I have here, which I did have here, and now I've misplaced. Oh gosh, I didn't want to. Okay, there we go. So you just have to be patient. Chris says, who sent the hoax anthrax letters? That's all of that's up in the air, and there's one guy they thought did it, but I don't know that this is the guy or somebody else or whatever. Okay, here's a point. Another very concerning point in the documents is the reference to America Media, Inc. Okay, if one believes the Florida Sun anthrax letter was the odd letter to Jennifer Lopez was connected with the other anthrax letters, this particular sender becomes very interesting. He is obsessed with America Media, which is National Enquirer. Okay, did the anthrax letter writer write dozens of letters to the media only to be ignored? Were the cases of the beautiful missing women the original focus of the anthrax letter writer, and did he divert after September 11th in the quest for more publicity? The timing of this letter is very interesting. It follows my recent appearance on Fox News with Linda Vester, where I profiled the anthrax letter writer. The sender of this letter addressed it to our organization's old address, which is not on the main page of the website. Rather, if one punches Pat Brown profile into the search engine, my CV is pulled up with the old address. It would seem the sender of the letter did just that following the show. The return address is very interesting as well. What jumped out to me was 44 Baker Street, an address that does not exist in Toms River, New Jersey. Rather, it is the address of the fictional Sherlock Holmes in London, England. The sender puts his home address as Toms River, yet the postmark is from Monmouth Beach, New Jersey, some 30 miles away. The letter sent to Senator Daschle from Trenton also includes a return address from some distance away. The writing on the envelope has similarities to the anthrax letter, specifically in the letters S and G. Although I'm not a handwriting expert, the similarities are concerning. The writing would not be identical, as the purpose of this letter was not the same as the others. Also, this was not so carefully executed and may be close to the writer's normal handwriting. Lastly, the name given in the return address is one. That's why I keep covering it up. I'm not going to give that guy's name because I'm not trying to say that guy's anything to do with this case. And actually, he's not the guy that I think even wrote the letters, but I'm going to make up a name. So I'm going to say his name is Benjamin Franklin. Okay. Benjamin Franklin, because okay. The name given on the return address, I'll just say, okay, maybe I'll make it up Frank. Maybe I'll just say Ben Franklin. Well, that's the same thing. Maybe I'll say Benny Franklin. Okay, Benny Franklin. So the name given on the address is Benny Franklin. I believe this likely to be a made-up name. However, after a quick search on the internet, I came across a Benny Franklin that does exist in New Jersey and is a match to my profile given on Fox. I had stated I believe the Anthrax letter writer may have lived in New Brunswick and was commuting down to Trenton. I believed he may work with agricultural labs, possibly the New York Department of Agriculture. The Benny Franklin that I found on the internet is a PhD student at Rutgers University. Remember I said on the Fox thing, I said the guy was possibly with Rutgers University? The letter writer, I found the name he put on the return was a guy at Rutgers University. And he was in the agricultural biotech program. He was a biologist. Rutgers also has a soil testing lab in Milltown, New Jersey, just 7 miles from Franklin Park, the return address on the Daschle letter. Smith, Kenny, I get this right, the Benny Franklin dude, does research in human urban ecology, carbon cycling in urban areas, and works on the Baltimore Urban Long-Term Ecological Research Project. Okay. Other links may be that Daschle and Leahy are both members of the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry. The use of Greendale in the return address may refer to a childhood school or someplace else nearby, blah, blah, blah. Why did this Benny Franklin decide to send this information to me as unknown, except to speculate he wants to be found? I never think that. Wants to test my skill. Wants a soulmate, which is often possible with I have serial killers that send me things all the time because I think I'm their soulmate because I understand them. Possibly it's just a big hoax or the writing of a nutter that has nothing to do with the Anthrax letters. So I'm willing to admit to the FBI, I'm not saying this is a dude. I'm just saying it's awfully interesting. And if a guy, right after I do a profile of the Anthrax attacker on Fox, and the guy sends me a letter in block printing, and he has connections to the location where the letters were mailed out of, and he's a biologist, you think you might want to look into him. You just think. So anyway, I said, however, there are enough connections here to warrant concern, and the manner of sending the documents without a cover letter explanation dismisses the obvious attempt at a hoax. I look forward to getting this matter sorted out and will be happy of any assistance if I can, to be any assistance I can, if you wish to use my services in any aspect of the investigation. All right, so that, Benny says, that's funny. Benny says, call him Benny Thompson. Oh my God, it was you. Probably not. That is a good point too. Kay says men like that, incels, always are obsessed with out-of-reach women. This is actually very, very true. The incel issue. Incels, in case you don't know, are dudes that just can't get laid. They're like usually have trouble in the dating life. They spend a lot of time on the internet whining about the fact they can't get laid. Maybe they're overweight. Maybe they're just insecure. Maybe they're weird. Maybe, whatever they are, they can't get laid. They're called incels. And they commiserate with each other and get angry over the fact that nobody wants to have sex with them. Okay, so this is the basics. I want to point out, this is the basic of the letter I sent to the FBI. Gets more interesting. Gets way more interesting. So now let me read you what the FBI says they did, okay? Now, because I'm thinking, I sent this into the FBI. Now, I'm going to ask you, do you think the FBI should have looked into my suspect? Because he sent me the letters and it came out of basically the same mailbox area as the Anthrax dude. And the dude sending it, the name that was on the envelope did match to a biology guy at Rutgers. Do you think they should have investigated it? That's my question for you. Do you think they should have investigated it? I'll look forward to your answers on that. And while I'm waiting for that answers, I'm going to read to you what supposedly happened at that time. All right. Do you see here at the top mailed anthrax letters. This guy supposedly on September 18th mailed anthrax letters to NBC. What is that? Oh my gosh. It is a media outlet like my guy. And the New York Post, my guy. And probably to the National Enquirer, like my guy. So we have like all the things that my guy is basically doing. Also on September 20th, mailed hoax letter to NBC and possibly to New York Post and National Enquirer. Again, hoax letters. Okay, let's move on from there. Now, laboratories that have worked with the Ames strain of anthrax. Now, supposedly they claim this was the Ames strain. Now, look at number 5. It's the Duke University Medical School in North Carolina. I'm going to show you how eventually my suspect, my newer suspect, not the guy's name on the letter, which I'm going to explain why it is not him. My newer suspect actually had an ex-wife who was from North Carolina, and he had an ex-wife that worked at Duke University. There you go. All right, now let me move to the next one. All right, listen, look at this. Just 2 weeks ago, for instance, the FBI blanketed New Jersey, where at least 4 of the anthrax letters were mailed from, with flyers asking anyone who might have any knowledge of the culprit to contact the Bureau. Did I contact the Bureau? Think I did. Okay. They received dozens of subpoenas all over the place, and the FBI emailed 40,000 members asking for possible clues. Did I contact the FBI with possible clue? You'd think I did, wouldn't you? Okay, let's go further. Here's the FBI. Says it's pursuing all avenues. Quote, we are continuing to investigate the source of the anthrax and who might be responsible for sending it. That investigation is very thorough and very exhaustive, and we have not ruled anything out. We have pursued thousands of leads. Do you think they pursued my lead? Last one here. Okay. The FBI throws the net as wide as they possibly can, Peter said. They put hundreds of people on this case and turned the crank and looked for little clues. Little clues. I'm putting A and B together. Oh my God. Oh, even little clues. I sent my letter to the FBI in, what was that date? November 26th, 2001. I sent my letter. Now, mind you, let's talk for a second about tips. Let me see what you have to say, by the way. Martin says the FBI should have looked at him. Anna says the FBI should have looked at Benny. Of course. Yes, of course. The person might be the real deal. Yes, I should have investigated. All right. You all agree. Now, let's talk about tips. When you are running an investigation, you get a whole pile of really stupid tips. First of all, you get all the psychics. They're going to come in droves, hundreds and thousands of psychics. I know who did it. Okay. The FBI is probably not going to investigate all the psychic tips or any of them, and they shouldn't. Okay, I'm good with that. Then you get my ex-husband did it. You're really ticked off at your ex. My ex-husband's that dude. And you get a ton of those, which are meaningless because you're like, my ex-husband who is a carpenter in Idaho, I think he did it. And you're like, first of all, he's a carpenter. Secondly, he's in Idaho. And he's your ex-husband, you're pissed out. No, I'm not going to waste my time. Get rid of all the ex-husbands, ex-boyfriends, all the people just all mad about everything. Then you get the weird neighbor. My neighbor's weird, My neighbor's weird. And then it turns out, again, he's some regular dude, has no access to anthrax. He doesn't have any connections to New Jersey. He's just the weird neighbor. Okay, you can't waste your time with all of that. Now, the woman from the sorority that Ivins harassed, and he harassed her, he harassed the sorority and stole stuff from the sorority. She contacted the FBI and said, look, I think it's this dude. She should have been listened to because obviously, first of all, the guy's weird and did really, really psychopathic things. And he was, oh my goodness, actually worked at Fort Detrick. And he had access to anthrax. Definitely should pay attention to that guy. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, my guy, a criminal profiler who was on television, who just did a profile of the anthrax attacker on Fox News, gets a letter in block print with all kinds of weird media stuff in it and sends it to you and says, look, they're coming out of New Jersey. The guy, what is this? You would think they would investigate it. So I waited to hear from them. I never did. And I'm not going to name the FBI profiler I wasn't an FBI profiler, FBI agent I sent it to. I sent a couple more because I'm like, hey, I haven't heard from you guys. I'm not, I'm just saying, I haven't heard from you. One day I said, I've had it. I've got to find out whether the FBI actually investigated my dude. I drove to Rutgers University and I went to the biology department and I spoke to the head of the biology department. I'm not going to give the name of that person. And I learned I won't even say it's the head of the department. It was just somebody in the department. I actually don't know if it's a head. I'm just going to say it's somebody in the department. I talked to somebody in the department years ago and brought them this information. So I'm a criminal profiler. I've turned this information to FBI. Have they been here? Guess what? They had never, ever gone to Rutgers. Never. They had not talked to anybody about the guy I was talking about who was in the Rutgers program. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. They never showed up. So then I had a conversation about this guy who was the Benny guy on my envelope. And the person was telling me about him. I'm like, it's not really working for me. I'm not thinking this is the guy. It just doesn't really feel right. And I do know where he lives and works now. He's an interesting character, but I still don't see anything. Anyway, she said, but he has a friend in the biology program. And she told me about the friend in the biology program. You're not going to believe this crap. So the guy in the biology program spent a lot of time on the internet. He was obsessed with crime. Guess who he had? He had a subscription to the Star, which is American media. He was obsessed with the National Enquirer. He got tabloids at an address. He didn't give his own address. He had a different place where he got his mail. So he was actually into tabloids. He was into the National Enquirer and all of that. So I'm like, whoa, okay, this is interesting. This is really interesting. He was also a biologist, don't you know? And his ex-wife was in North Carolina. And his other ex-wife was with Duke University Biological Laboratories. And guess what? He didn't have a car. He took the train between Rutgers and Washington, D.C. And that passed right by the mailbox. There was also another interesting connection to the Princeton thing, along with the train ride, but I haven't been able to find my details on that. But he also had a connection to that. So we have a guy. He also saw a psychiatrist for issues with women. So I'm like, it looks like it's this guy, not and sometimes what people do when they want to come up with a fake name, they should just come up with a totally fake name, like just put Sherlock Holmes, Baker Street. You know what I mean? But for some reason, the name he put was somebody he knew. Okay, that's not unusual. People in a heartbeat, I don't want to use my real name, and then they put a friend's name or an acquaintance's name. So it's interesting that both of these guys were in the biology department. They knew each other. But I say the guy in the envelope didn't work for me, but the other guy, oh my God, did he have a lot of weird stuff going on? Connection to the media, connection to National Enquirer, connection to all of these issues, connections to he was a biologist, and connections to the Duke lab, connections to North Carolina. He had all of this. And I have way, way more on this guy, but I'm not going to get into it. I don't know that this guy was the Anthrax letter writer. I don't know if he was the Anthrax attacker. I don't know. I don't know if whether Ivins was the guy. I don't know if Ivins had a buddy, because this guy was in New Jersey where the letters were sent from, and Ivins was not. This guy took the train right through Princeton, right through that whole area, along with his other connections that Ivins did not. Did they know each other? I don't know, but this guy clearly, the guy who sent me the letters, clearly was obsessed with the media and having the media pay attention to him. And if I'm correct that this is the right guy who sent me the letters, and I have a hard time believing it's not him, because it matches him. It comes out of that. Everything matched this guy. So I believe I know who sent me this letter, and that I turned over to the FBI, and I know the FBI never investigated him, and yet he was a biologist, and he was at Rutgers, and he was obsessed with the media, and he did have psychological problems, and he did take the train to DC. So I'm like, and you never investigated him? It's a frustrating thing. That's all I can say. It's really frustrating. So, a lot of times I try to explain to people that you think things are being done correctly, but when you've actually been involved and they're not. Now, if the FBI had gone up to Rutgers and talked to everybody, if I'd gotten there and they said, oh yeah, FBI's already been here, go away, I'd go, cool, whether it turned out to be my guy or not, because that's not my interest. My interest wasn't that this was the guy. My interest was, are you going to investigate somebody who has so many connections to this, possibly being the Anthrax attacker? At least you're going to do your job. And they didn't do their job. I can honestly say that the FBI did not do the job, because I know they never went to Rutgers. They never interviewed anybody, because I shouldn't have been the first person to go up there. And I waited a long time because I assumed they had done so. And when I finally gave up on them, I went up there myself just to see if I could. I didn't even think they'd talk to me. But apparently this character was, shall we say, quite a character, and was a character enough that they were concerned about him, to the point where somebody was willing to talk to me and say, we have issues. We've always thought we think he's weird, and he has all these weird things that he does. So that you're coming up here and saying he sent these letters to you and these things match doesn't surprise us. So, when the people tell you that, you're like, very interesting. That he should have been investigated, and that the FBI didn't bother to do it. And that was, let me say again, when was that? I sent the letter out November 26, 2001, when they said they did not have a suspect. Oh, and they were like turning over every stone to find the guy, thousands and thousands of leads. So a lead from a profiler who was on Fox News, who got a letter that looks like the Anthrax guy, who's connected to Rutgers University, is a biology student and has connections to Princeton and Duke. That's not worth following up. I'm going to say, if you followed up 4,000 leads, you should have followed up 4,001, or you're a bunch of fat liars. Anyway, okay. So let me see what you're saying. I'll calm down now. So frustrating. Oh, Lord. Benny says, hello, Pat. Hold on. I'm taking a drink now. How does this not make you doubt other investigations, and if more people are not perhaps wrongfully convicted? Well, I can say this, Benny. It's interesting that for me, I have worked on cases where I know something crooked has happened on, and I pointed that out in the South Carolina case of the Superbikes murder. You can find that video. 4 people murdered in the Superbikes. Todd Colehep confessed. They are lying. The police are lying. I will say that. They can go and accuse me on television, and I will pull the proof out, because I have the proof. I had the video, and I have the proof. The police lied about that. The killer said that all 4 people are shot in the forehead, and I have the actual autopsies that say none of them are shot in the forehead. So I know they lied. They gave him a plea deal because they wanted to close the case. They didn't convict the wrong person in the sense of an innocent person. He was already a serial killer, but it wasn't him. And that's a lie to the public, and it leaves the killer out there. I have a couple other cases where I do not believe they have the right guy in there, and it's very hard for me to fight some of these. Sometimes I can't even do anything about it, even though I know it's a lie and the wrong guy is in there. Some of them, it's very hard to fight. It's very hard to get FOIA requests. I spent $900 on a FOIA request in the South Carolina case, and they'd robbed me of $900. And they absolutely robbed me. And I'll say that on air too. Robbed me of $900 and didn't give me what they said. I said, here's what I want. These are the items I want. And they said they would send those to me if I send them $900. I sent them $900, and they robbed me. And we tried to go after we tried to go to some judges on it and all that, and nothing ever happened because there was a lot of collusion going on. Does it happen? Yes, it does. On the other hand, you got people like the Innocence Project who are getting people out of prison who are guilty. Now, sometimes they get innocent people out, but a lot of times they get guilty people out because they have an agenda. And agenda is what screws up a lot of things. Agenda could be closing a case. Agenda could be proving you're able to do your job. Agenda could be we want to stop the death penalty, so therefore we'll go out. We'll try to get everybody out of prison who's got the death penalty, even if they're not really innocent. So agenda interferes with a lot of stuff. I don't have an agenda. I do. Justice, truth. That's my agenda. So all I want is that the right person gets convicted and the right killer gets off the street, because that provides public safety. That's my agenda. And I really don't care. I'm going to be wrong sometime in my life. People will say, well, Pat, you just, you want to be right. You want to be right. You did a profile. You want to be right. Well, everybody does. But sometimes you're going to be wrong. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay, I'll live with it. If you can prove that I'm wrong, bully for you, you got the right guy. Because again, profiling is a technique and it's a method for investigation. It's not an absolute. It's like, here's what I got out of this. This is where I want the investigators to look. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be the guy who did it, or maybe there was another option, or maybe I had even 3 options to my profile said, look at this. That's like 80%. This is like 50%. This is like 5%. Look in these different ways, just because I want you to cover all bases. So that's supposed to be the investigative technique. Let's see. Okay. I'm trying to see where, ignored on purpose, fall guy already chosen. I don't think so, Times. I think that my suspect was before Hatfill's. My suspect was before Steven Hatfill. This is very, very beginning, and certainly before Ivins. There was no excuse for them not to investigate him. I have no idea why they refused to look at him. It makes, except that maybe it wasn't their lead. They don't like to follow up leads that aren't theirs. I don't have any clue. It blew me away, because I'm like, you got to look at this dude. You got to look at this. Christine says, due diligence. Yes, I love the word due diligence. Seeks to uncover liabilities, key risks, and opportunities, as well as potential associated with a target. Your needs for this matter on real evidence. Yes, I gave them evidence, and it wasn't. Again, I tried to. Oh, sorry. Wait a minute. I wasn't talking about my weirdo neighbor. It wasn't a he said, she said type thing, or some. I just don't like this dude. I'm like, I got a letter, for God's sakes. I got a letter. It's got Monmouth, New Jersey on it. I didn't make that crap up. I got the letters inside. I didn't make up the fact this guy's obsessed with the media. He sent this to me. I didn't make it up. So it's not my opinion. It's actual bloody evidence. It's like, what the hell? No, do your job. Getting carried away again. Okay. Let's see what else you have to say. Here's a good question, Molly. Do you think there's enough evidence that points to Ivins plus others involved? Conviction is another story. Oh my God, that's the problem. So much information has come out since Ivins killed himself that I don't know. That's why I read you those things where people are saying, no, it didn't come from the Ivins. They even say it didn't come from the stuff Ivins had, the anthrax Ivins had, his beaker, basically, of anthrax. There are people now who say, scientific people, it didn't come from that didn't come from that beaker. It didn't come from his anthrax. Some people say it didn't even come from the lab. It could have come from someplace else. Somebody could have made that stuff. Some people say a person could have made it in, a biologist at Rutgers could have made it in some location. And there's other people who say, oh no, it could have only been made military grade by Al Qaeda. Now let me point out one of the things I had said. I didn't point this out, but let me do it, because I think I might as well go back to this. Okay, so the letters. Let's see. Oh yeah, here, okay. Here are a couple of letters. I forgot to do this. Okay, so these were two of the letters. Now, the one over here says, "You cannot stop us." Somebody who couldn't put "cannot" together. That's all fake. We have this anthrax. You die now. Are you afraid? Death to America. Death to Israel. Allah is great. They're trying to sound like a foreigner, but they're succeeding. Well, they're not succeeding. This is a local. This is an American. This is not Al Qaeda. This is absolutely not. Over here, it says, what does it say? This is next. Take penicillin now. Penicillin being spelled wrong. Like, let's say, you're going to write a real letter because you're from a big organization. You're going to, you can spell penicillin, for Christ's sakes. They're trying to look like, oh, I don't speak English. Death to America, death to Israel, Allah is great. Okay. The guy is making stupid stuff up. Also, what's very interesting is that he actually doesn't appear to be trying to kill people, because the way he put the envelopes together was almost like he wanted to scare them, not kill them, but something kind of went wrong with 5 people. Not the people he meant to send it to, but other kind of innocent people that stuff flew up in their nose. So I don't think he was trying to kill anybody. I think he was trying to scare the living crap out of people and didn't expect this to actually kill people. And I did write see if I can find. I did write an actual. See if I can find it. Where do you think I put it? I wrote a whole thing on that. I thought the guy was definitely an American. Let's see. I'll see if I can locate it. I don't know that I can. I wrote a profile, not on Fox News. I just wrote a profile later on. Let's see. Okay, hold on a second. Okay. Okay. I wrote. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, where is the profile? Okay, I wrote this one. The profile I wrote was this. Anthrax mystery. Is this foreign or domestic terror? See if I can pull this out of here so I can see it a little bit better. I'll put it over here. Okay. On the heels of September 11th assault on United States citizens comes a new threat: bioterrorism. It's probably called coronavirus. Okay. Opening mail, a daily ritual for every American, has now become a possibly life-threatening activity. Terrorism has come to our door and threatened the perceived security we feel at home in our daily lives. No longer can we choose to avoid danger by refusing to fly or travel to locations we feared might be targeted. The danger has come to us, and there's little we can do except pray we don't draw the short stick. So the concept of it's kind of like the Unabomber. You go to your mailbox and something blows up. Or in this case, you go and you open up like I did, open up the letter, and then you're dead. Okay. But is this an exaggeration of the situation? Has the general public been threatened in such a large way? Is there a plot laid down by Osama bin Laden being carried out by his army to all states of the nation through the use of poison pen letters? Is this a continuing foreign terrorist threat? Let's examine the methodology and targets of the Anthrax, quote, terrorist, and get an idea who's most likely sending the letters. Now, first of all, we should examine the number of letters sent so far. The number has been minuscule. Just a few letters to a few select people. Does this seem like an assault of a group of soldiers? One would think we would see many letters going out all over the country if this is a work of bin Laden. Most likely the access to the anthrax is of limited quantity, signifying that only a small amount was accessed by the letter sender. So a person or a couple of people. Let's look at the purpose of the letters. Is it really to administer death? In each of the letters to Brokaw and Daschle, there is one sentence that is completely out of context with the rest of the message. Both letters contain the strong statements, death to America and death to Israel. Likewise, the heading of the date 9/11/2001 is a reference to mass death. However, in the letter to Tom Brokaw, the writer states, take penicillin now. This is rather odd line considering the stated purpose is death. The writer appears not to actually desire death of the receiver of the mail. He warns him to save himself. In the letter to Daschle, the question is stated, are you scared? People who are dead cannot be scared. Only living people can. It would seem with these two letters, the purpose of the anthrax mailings is to instill fear. The deaths that have already occurred may not have been intended and may have been considered collateral damage in a plan to frighten Americans and to encourage certain behaviors and attitudes. As to the identity of the Anthrax letter sender, there is also a clue in the writing itself. Although there are statements referring to Allah and a hatred of America and Israel, each letter also contains something quite out of place. The misspelling of the word penicillin in the Brokaw letter is an obvious ploy of the writer to make you think he is unfamiliar with the English language. It is highly unlikely that a true foreign author of such a letter would make his spelling, he would make sure his spelling was correct. Being a foreigner, he could use a dictionary. He would also not want to be disrespected for his inability to spell properly. The letter writer makes a similar mistake in the letter to Daschle. He uses improper grammar, again in a way that a foreign terrorist would most likely not do if he is addressing an entire nation and representing his country. By pointing the finger at bin Laden followers and the Muslim world, the writer both leads the investigation away from himself and also stirs up the worst fears for the American public that he would if they believed the threat was domestic. So in other words, he wants people to think it's larger. Lastly, who has this individual targeted to receive the letters? All the recipients of the letters are people we would label as liberals to a reasonable extent. That would be odd choices for foreign terrorists. However, for an American with specific issues they wish to avenge and specific issues they wish to address, the choices are more sensible. Putting all these pieces together, it would appear the Anthrax is being sent by one or two Americans with the intention of scaring the American public into believing foreign terrorists are out to get them and the U.S. government cannot protect them. Destroyers of the decent American culture, such as liberal newsmen, Democratic politicians, sleazy rags that disseminate cultural poison in the form of tabloids, are the first groups deserving of receiving death threats. Now, one could speculate that this person might be in right-wing or militia activities or that kind of thing. Now, mind you, I just to say this is not political. A lot of people who are psychopathic don't really have a political axe to grind, or they just choose one. Now, interesting, my suspect apparently was kind of had, like somebody said, one of the people said, a John Birch mentality. And I'm not going to, again, anti-John Birch. Anybody who knows me actually doesn't know I'm a conservative. So I don't think this was done by a right-wing group or a conservative group. But I do think what we have is a person who wants to, shall we say, make his point to get people riled up. And he's decided who he wants to use to achieve that. That's what psychopaths do. So that person has decided who they're going to be and that this is how they're going to approach the thing. So it's always questionable. It's kind of like serial killers. When people say, oh, serial killers hate women. Not necessarily. That's just women are easier to kill. If you're a male serial killer and you're jumping out, women are really easy to kill. And then, they don't necessarily even hate women. They're useful. So a lot of times there isn't even a true political or true racial or a true, whether they're sexist or stuff. None of that stuff necessarily exists with a psychopath. They're all about themselves and they want to take on a persona. So, but that does mean sometimes when they take on that persona in their writing, you might want to look for a guy who's spouting stuff. Doesn't mean he's attached to any organization or he really truly is that political. It's just he's spouting that stuff. And my particular suspect actually kind of was leaning that way. And I did not write this before I knew who my suspect was. I just wrote this early on. So at any rate, I also wrote that one might speculate that such persons might be involved. Okay, one might speculate such persons might live in the Trenton area, as this kind of person often does not actually travel that far out of his area of comfort. And that turned out to be, in my opinion, my suspect did live in the New Jersey area, not somebody who lived in Washington, D.C. or Virginia or Maryland. They might come here, but I did not see them as necessarily living there. I never understood why Ivins, particularly, if it was him, would then drive up to New Jersey to mail these things. What was the connection between him and going up to New Jersey and mailing it? He could have gone anyplace else. Because he's in Washington D.C. area. You've got three jurisdictions right there. You've got Virginia, you got Maryland, you got D.C. He could have just crossed the state line. He didn't have to go all the way up to New Jersey. What for? Why would he do that? So I believe that the person had to probably be located in New Jersey, or one of the two people had to be involved in New Jersey. This person or persons may have worked in a lab, perhaps some lab close by the mailing area. At this point, only one theory can be gleaned from such a profile, and another profile might have a different take on the letters and offer another avenue of investigation. Hopefully there may be some answer forthcoming so that America can get back to the business of living normal lives. Saying that with coronavirus going on, boy, is that 20 years ago, we wanted to get back to normal life. We did not see this coming. Compared to coronavirus, anthrax ain't nothing. So, okay, this is an interesting point. The letter writer uses the more complex numeral 1 as is done in countries other than the US. I write my ones that way too, and I am an American. So you might be right, but I think the reason people a lot of times write it that way is because the 1 can be confused with an L. And so I always write my ones that way. So I would say, I don't know if, I would be curious about scientists, whether scientists would write their ones more like that kind of 1 than a non-scientist. So that's actually kind of very interesting. Not necessarily that they're foreign, but do scientists write their ones that way for the purpose of being sure they are absolute and not confused with an L? So that's fascinating. Oh, you cannot stop us equals 1 person. Well, that's an interesting point, Ryan. A lot of times people, when they're still working alone, will still say us just because they want to make it look like a big crowd. But then again, it could have been more than 1. I don't know. Why take penicillin now? It's weird. I mean, that is kind of weird. I mean, it is weird. I have no good answer for that, except it's sounding like, okay, to protect yourselves. I don't know why. If you were Al Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, you're not going to tell people to take penicillin. You're just going to say you're screwed. I don't know. It's very weird, and and again, I'm not a scientist, so I don't even know why they'd say penicillin instead of Cipro. Let's take Cipro, man. Let's see. Ryan says the author is not Muslim and is a single person and male. I would say the person is not Muslim. I don't know that they're single person or male, but I would lean toward male on this particular instance. A single person wrote the letters, but the question is somebody else involved? And I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. The author has a brain of a 6-year-old. And but that's a good point. The brain of a 6-year-old is a good point. In a sense, they're dumbing down things. Now, let's face it. If you can deal with anthrax, you're a scientist of high intelligence. Hatfill was highly intelligent. Ivins was highly intelligent. And I'm going to say both the suspect I'm looking at and was highly intelligent. He's not an idiot. So they don't have a brain of a 6-year-old, but they're pretending to have a brain of a 6-year-old. They're dumbing themselves down because they want to be like foreign terrorists, and so they're dumbing themselves down. It's very, very weird. It's extremely weird. Okay, Anna Lisette says, take penicillin now implies to me the aim is terror, not murder. And I do think I think the terror thing is very important. I do think, and again, this person apparently sent letters to the media, a lot of letters to the media, and my suspect certainly sent hundreds of letters to the media to get attention. And when they don't get attention, they get angry and they want to terrorize because like, hey, you never paid attention to me. Now you're going to pay attention to me. So I would agree that that's true, the terror part, but not terror as in foreign terror or a terroristic organization. It's just a lone guy wanting to feel important and wanting to say, you should have paid attention to me. And you didn't pay attention to me. So Martin says, Molly, was the involvement of your suspect a one-off event for him? Or have they gone on to do other psychopathic behaviors or have past issues? I don't know. I do not know. Because I did not pursue the investigation of this individual because I don't have the right to do that. And I'm not even saying this individual did anything. Now, all I can say is let's say this individual was not the anthrax attackers. This is still weird. This is still weird. So, dude, if you sent me this crap, you still got issues. You sent me an anonymous letter with a anonymous letter. Now you're all going to look at that. With a fake name, anonymous letter, and all kinds of weird crap inside. You did this. Why would you do this? Why wouldn't you send, if you really wanted me to look into something, why didn't you send me your name? So you went anonymously, actually faking a name to, which wasn't even you. And you said you sent dozens and dozens of these letters to all these media outlets. You got an issue. You got some kind of psychological problem. You may not be the anthrax attacker, but what you did is also not quite right. And you exhibit psychological problems. So I don't know, Molly, whether he had lots of weird behaviors before or lots of weird behaviors after. I don't know, because I did not investigate. I left that to the FBI, and they did not do the job. That's all I can say. They did not do the job. And it angers me to this day, not because I wanted to prove it was this guy, but because it concerns me that you followed supposedly thousands of leads, which probably had no basis. And I gave you a real good lead with a basis and connections, and you didn't bother to investigate it. I'm going to say something's wrong with your organization. That just pisses me off, because there's no excuse for that. You should have investigated him. And if you found out he was just a weirdo, he's just another weirdo, so be it. Then you put it in the pile, and that's that. But you never went and investigated him. And I know you didn't, because I went and you didn't. So yeah, that's concerning. By the way, that's not necessarily true. So I want to get away from the white male American thing. This is the same thing we do with serial killers, that we assume all serial killers were white. They're not. They're of every color, and so could the anthrax guy. The anthrax guy has not anything to do with race, and he's actually not anything to do with political party, even though I pointed out that he was pushing, what he's doing was pushing the political issue. But that doesn't mean he's actually part of that political party. He may have some ideas. There's no proof he was a white American male. There's no proof of that. And this is one of the things I talk about with profiling. You can have all the beliefs you want, but as a profiler, I don't want to say that. I have found that, like with serial killers, that the reason serial killers were always considered white before is simply because they did better investigation in white communities. And once upon a time, white people lived with white people. So when white guys killed, they killed white women. So when white women were murdered and they found the guy, he was a white guy. But when the investigations improved, lo and behold, they started improving in black communities. Guess what? The black guys were the guys, because serial killers kill where they live. Most of the time they kill where they live. Now, some of them do. There's truckers and there's guys who move around. But generally speaking, they kill where they live. Well, guess what happened? As time went on and more of the races mixed, white guys were killing black women and black guys were killing white women. And Latino guys were in there someplace too, and other Asian guys, because that was who was in their neighborhood. I made this joke about one crime, where the guy, he's hiding in the bushes on a bike path. And here comes a woman. She's jogging along, and he's like, ooh, she's 5'3", only 100 pounds. There's nobody around. Oh, darn. I'm a white guy and she's black. I'm not going to kill her. I'm going to wait for a white girl. No. If the black girl comes down the path and you're a white guy and nobody's around, you'll kill her. Or if a black guy's sitting there and a white girl comes running down, you'll kill her. You don't care. They're not racist. They just kill who's available. So yeah, let's not put race into things that make no sense to put race into, because we do not have proof. There are black biologists and black scientists who could have the same attitudes. We just don't know. Could be black, white, could be Indian American, it could be Chinese American. Who the heck knows? Doesn't matter. And when you do investigation, if you already start saying as a profiler, this is the race, when you have no proof of the race, you can completely screw up an investigation. So I never say anything has to do with race unless there's some reason, like witnesses say a person is particular skin color. So therefore you might be looking for a person who's lighter skinned or darker skinned, or perhaps has something to do with the music they were listening to in the vehicle, or something that tells you why you want to look at a particular culture. And I don't go with race, by the way. I go with culture. And so let's get away from that kind of stuff because it kind of serves no use. Anna Lisette says the Green River Killer crossed racial boundaries. Any color sex worker was on his victim list. Yeah, I mean, it's most of the time it's fairly meaningless. Early on, people used to have this, and I think the FBI was kind of responsible in their, and unfortunately their research that serial killers kill people that look like their sisters or mothers because they're angry at them. It was all nonsense. So what happens is, let's say you're a serial killer in America, but you live in a highly Polish area, and and you're like, guess what? You're probably going to have a Polish-looking girl that you killed because that's who's in your area. So you're going to kill them. So let's just, let's just look at things as the way the serial killer looks at it, not like we would. Oh, aren't you nice? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Coin. That's so sweet. You donated last week. You didn't have to do it again, but I appreciate it. Some of you who want to ask this question, I do have a super chat on here now, but it happened accidentally last week, and I decided I would leave it up because I am being so demonetized. Chandra Levy was demonetized last week, and my midweek Wednesday hangout, which I didn't say anything I thought was terribly crude or horribly vicious, that was demonetized too. So every time I get demonetized, it means that I have trouble getting advertising support for the channel. So thank you very much. You're just wonderful. I totally appreciate that. And so, yeah, so I left it up there because I'm like, if they weren't being so difficult, YouTube, they could make my life a lot easier, but they've decided not to do that. So let's see what else you guys got to say. Heather, really interesting case with Ivins. There's not as much coverage of Amerithrax. Oh, you're using the word Amerithrax. I never even heard of that till I read Wikipedia. And very interesting your take on this. Thank you. I mean, Ivins was a whack job. I mean, he was a good suspect. I'm not arguing him at all. I mean, woof, the dude was weird. But the question is, they never connected him actually to the crime, and that's the problem. And regardless. My point is basically, my suspect was very interesting and had many connections, more connections outside of proving. If you believe the part where they say anthrax could only have come from Ivins' lab and his work, then Ivins is obviously the better suspect. And he's a whack job, and he's clearly psychopathic and has real issues. Okay, I'd say he's a better suspect. But he has no connection to New Jersey. There's nothing else. They went to his apartment. There was no spores anyplace. And that's weird. I mean, they came up with nothing. My suspect had the connections to New Jersey and letter writing. Clearly, the letter that I have, it was written. I know who sent this. I do. I know who sent this. I'm pretty, I'd say 99% sure I know who sent this from the Rutgers biology department. So there are connections. Doesn't mean that it's him, but they should have investigated him to at least eliminate him and not have ignored somebody with that many connections to being possibly involved. I'm appalled, still appalled. I was appalled 20 years ago. And, it's disheartening. It's disheartening because you want to have faith in the FBI. You want to have faith in your police departments. You want to believe that they're doing the right thing, that they're following up all the leads that they should, not all the stupid stuff, mind you, because I'm on the police department side when people go, I don't know why you didn't follow that up. And they're like, because it's stupid, So yes, I believe in good detective work, and I believe you. They can't waste their manpower on idiotic stuff. They've got to focus in on true evidence. But this was reasonable evidence to focus in on, and they didn't do it. And that's the FBI, not the police department, the FBI. And again, in the end, there's no proof that Ivins committed the crime. He may well have, but they don't have proof of it. So we're left with another, quote, unsolved mystery. We have Hatfill, who ended up with near $5 million in lawsuit stuff. I think the widow of Ivins also got some money because they the FBI did a lot of leaking to the media, which they had no business doing. And that was also concerning. So let's see. Coin says, no, I'm not that nice. Yes, you are. People say I'm nice, but they're probably wrong about that too. Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. Christine says, yeah, great coin. That is very sweet. Let's see what else you have to say here. Anna Lisette says, the military vaccinated for anthrax a number of years ago. I think it was after the letters were sent. There's a whole bunch of things about who Ivan supposedly had done enough stuff to prevent him from getting anthrax, and he even bragged about that. So that was kind of concerning, but you know. I'm not sure who you're talking about. I don't think he had the expertise to make the anthrax or the lab facilities. If you're talking about my particular suspect, he had an ex-wife in the Duke Labs, and the Duke Labs did have anthrax. And again, I'm an idiot on this stuff, so I do not think I'm talking from great expertise. I am not. You might be absolutely correct, but the point being that there was too much with this guy, and he was a biologist, and he did have connections to labs, and so did the wife, the ex-wife, having connections to the Duke Lab, and she wasn't an ex-wife at the time, by the way. There was enough there. It should have been investigated, and who knows? He could have been working with Ivins. You know, he did go to college in Washington, D.C. You know, he's got connections to Washington, D.C., and he's got connections to Maryland. He's got relatives in Maryland, and he's went to school in D.C., college in D.C. So he has connections to the area that he took the train down. So he could have known Ivins. He could have had a thing. You know, they could have been buddies. I don't know. He could have been the guy that sent the letters. Who knows? I don't know. That's it. I just don't know. Maybe they both had a thing about women. You know, both of them had this thing where, you know, women are this and women are that. Some obsession with the media. Maybe I don't know. And I can't go there because I don't know, but they should have investigated. And if they investigated and found out there was no way in hell, okay, that's the way. I'm just talking about how they didn't investigate, because my suspect was worth investigating, regardless of whether he was the guy or not. Ivins used a coworker's name on a newspaper letter to the editor to criticize her sorority. That's correct. Also used her husband's name for porn bondage, not bandage porno. I think it's bandage porno. Porno. Is that where you put Band-Aids all over your body? Bondage porno. Bondage porno. Yeah, that's interesting. Ivins used a coworker's name. Isn't that fascinating? On a newspaper letter to an editor. Well, you know, the sorority that sorority thing I was talking about again. So here, that's interesting. So my letter writer used somebody who wasn't him. Ivins used somebody that wasn't him. Fascinating, you know? Yeah, you know, I can't investigate a case that is this high a level case. People sometimes say, well, you should investigate more, Pat. No, I did go to Rutgers. I did do a small investigation at the time because I just wanted to know the FBI had been there and was shocked to find out they hadn't gone. But other than that, it really wasn't my place to continue to investigate a case that was not my case. And I certainly can't do it 20 years later. So it's a bummer. Wish I could. Ryan says, please go back to Portugal and make a short film. Oh, somebody wants to pay my way to Portugal? I'll make any film you want. I love Portugal. What? That to not be demonetized, you can't say delicate words. I know it is difficult. It's not just that. Generally speaking, talking about crime, any kind of crime about children, all of these things can get you demonetized. I have my videos. I will have a video which they will demonetize, which has absolutely nothing in it. And then I'll do one that has something in it that I'm thinking they're going to demonetize this, and then they don't. I'm like, what? It's very nonsensical. So I have no idea what their issue is. Frustrating. I know I didn't do I didn't do the investigation. I just went to Rutgers and talked to people to find out whether the FBI had been there. And I did get enough information to find out what the links were with the particular person who I believed had sent me the letters. So I did do that 20 years ago. Yes. Oh, um, no, sorry. You can talk. My guy may be true too, though. Not no, sorry. I was talking about Ivins. I missed the first part of the show where we watch. From what I understand, the anthrax in that case was particularly sophisticated and not an Ivins defined skill set. Now, this is what I was reading when I was reading the different media reports. Some were saying that this was clearly way above Ivins, was not his own anthrax. This had to be this had to be something that they thought it was more of a higher level military thing and maybe some kind of foreign power. So there were some people who thought that, but being a non-expert, I can't even begin to say, do I think that's true or not? You know what I mean? I don't know. Some say it was his, some say it wasn't his, some say it was above him, some say it was below him. My guy would have been below him. Terrorist groups would have been above him. He would have been in the middle. I don't know. I have no idea. Let's see. What else do you have to say here? Let me go back a little bit. Let me go back and see if I missed something wonderful here. Let's see. I'm going to go back. You know, it's so sad. Sometimes I do this. I have so many things that have gone by and I can't see them while I'm doing the actual show. Let me go back. Okay. Somebody was protecting Rutgers. I doubt it. I don't think that's true. Although that you point that up. There was claim that the FBI was protecting the bioweapon military establishment that they didn't want to admit. Kind of like this whole thing. There's a lot of theories about the coronavirus right now actually being some kind of connection between Wuhan and the United States, that the United States was actually involved in the development of the strain of coronavirus that came out of Wuhan. And this was sort of during Anthrax. They thought, maybe there was some high level American stuff that got out of control, and they just covered that up. So, but we're probably never going to know. That's a fact. We're never going to know. It's going to remain a theoretically unsolved case. Ivins was a good suspect, but we're just simply probably not going to know. We're just not. It's unfortunate that we don't know. Kay says, yes, we, like in the Ramsey's small foreign faction. If you have never studied the quote ransom note for the John Benet Ramsey case, they used "we, our small foreign faction," and of course there is no small foreign faction, except for maybe the family's faction. But Ivan's co-worker said in hindsight he was a very good liar and was smart enough to do it. Yep. And some of them said, Molly, see, this is where the problem comes in. So someday I am connected with some kind of weird case, and somebody will come out and say, Pat would never do those things. No, I know Pat. Pat's an honest and decent person, and that's just not her style, and she wouldn't do that. And some other person will come out and say, yeah, I bet she did that. So apparently a bunch of Ivan's friends came out, or coworkers, said there's no way in God's earth that Ivan did this. Ivins did this. Dr. Bruce Ivins, he didn't do this. And then say you get somebody who says, he's a lying dog. He could have done this, and he's smart. And the truth is, he exhibited psychopathic behaviors, and he was going to a psychiatrist, and so was actually my suspect. Interesting enough, both of them were going to a psychiatrist, and now I'm beginning to wonder, were they going to the same psychiatrist? But both of them were seeing a psychiatrist, according to other people. And psychopaths usually don't go to psychiatrists, but sometimes they do. But a lot of times there's a psychotic thing going on, and certainly Dr. Ivins exhibited a lot of psychotic stuff too. Really, really bizarre ideation. And psychopaths are usually pretty grounded. You know what I mean? They know what they're doing. They're very, very. They may have they may want to commit horrible crimes, but they know what they're doing, and they're not imagining stuff. Dr. Ivins seemed to imagine a whole lot of weird stuff, so he did seem rather psychotic. But here's an interesting point: a person can be both psychopathic and psychotic. Which is not often recognized. In other words, you can be growing up with a psychopathic personality, but somewhere along the way, something goes amiss, and you also get psychotic ideation on top of the psychopathy. I kind of think that's what Ivins is like, but no, I can't. I'm not a psychiatrist. I didn't know him, so I can't say for sure. But yeah, it's hard to know. It's because he killed himself. And people say, well, that was consciousness of guilt. He killed himself. The FBI was after him. He killed himself. But then, his life was going down the toilet. So, he might have just decided, I can't take any more of this, and he just didn't want to deal with anything. So I can't say that suicide was necessarily proof that he committed the crime. I don't know. I honestly do not know. So interview Cyril Wecht. I don't actually interview anybody. I know people have asked me to interview people in different cases. I'm not really good at that. I don't think. I've never tried it before. I've never been an interviewer. And I think other people probably would do a better job of that than me. So I think I'm going to leave it to somebody else. I'm not sure what you're trying to say. I'm not sure what that actually means. What am I not? Are you talking to me, and am I not handling something easily? What am I not handling easily? You have to explain that one to me, because I'm not sure what that means. But it's definitely it's fascinating to have gone back and reviewed this case, because it has been so many years since I've even looked at it. And I was like panicked for a minute there. I'm like, I can't even find my stuff. It's like, I know I had a file folder. I know I had stuff on my hard drive. Where is it? It's 20 years old. And I luckily found the stuff. So, it is me you're talking about. Okay. I don't handle what very easily. Oh, not you. Oh, I'm so confused. I don't know. Oh, I do not. Anthrax. Oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't handle anthrax easily either. And anthrax is, anybody who actually handles anthrax, there's a lot of interesting information on that as well, by the way, because you have to be extraordinarily careful. And again, this is scientific, so I'm not real good at it as far as what you have to do. But yeah, I mean, it's not a toy. So an average person is not going to play around with anthrax. It's such a yeah. Either you have to have I think I don't know if you want to call it vaccines, but you have to have those going on. So people who work in labs do get those, I think. And then the whole Cipro thing is interesting. Yeah. So that was one of the things that was noted by people who were pretty smart, was that they thought that it shouldn't be that hard to find the guy, that the FBI should have not had such a hard time, because there's only so many people who theoretically could do such a thing. But, they went after one, and then all hell broke loose on that and didn't go well. And then they went after another guy, and they haven't proven that either. But then again, people like my suspect weren't even looked at. And even though there were really interesting connections, and if you're gonna run down thousands and thousands of tips, and I'm going to say there's not thousands and thousands of guys who are working with anthrax, then why the hell wouldn't you run down my tip that actually had evidence? I mean, that makes no sense to me. Because I don't understand it, and I never will understand it. And if the FBI would like to contact me and tell me why they never did their job, please do. please do. Okay, so anyway, I think that's most of what I have about anthrax today. So really interesting case. So I'm going to be back on Wednesday. If you'd like to be here for the live hangout, please do join Patreon. All the links are below. And you can join me on Wednesday if I'm there. So far, feeling pretty good. Let's see. What am I over? That's a scary thing. I tell you, it's a scary thing. I'm of the age group where you really shouldn't try to get COVID. It's scary. Oh, I have to say, just want to say, ban bioweapons labs now. I am with you on that. I do not understand why anybody would be mucking around with bioweapons at all. I mean, it just appalls me. So I'm with you there. I just think that's insane. It's like, I'll go back to that. It's like with coronavirus. It's like, okay, so you're working in labs to develop vaccines to prevent coronavirus if it ever escaped from hurting people. But meanwhile, we let it out, purposely or not purposely, and millions of people have died. So that worked out well, didn't it? Yes. Okay. So here, Coin is correct. Even above average people could not handle it. Every anthrax is trackable to a lab, but they can't. This is weird. You're correct. An average person. I mean, I can't see myself going, let me just chuck some. I got some anthrax here. I'm not going to do that. But they thought it was Ivan's lab, and now they're arguing that it wasn't. So that's the frustrating part. It's like, was it or wasn't it? And then was he working alone or wasn't he working alone? I don't know. This is true. Whoops, where did I see this? Hold on a second. Oh, what happened to that? Well, that's weird. I was just putting up a comment about serial killers, equal opportunity people, and the comment van. Whoa, no. Whoa, no. Oh, that's not true. Oh my God. Oh my God, that's so wrong. So this was Kay's. Oh my God, how do I get her back? I've never seen this happen before. Oh God, more technical issues. Kay had put this thing up about serial killers. And so I was clicking on it to put it up on the screen. And now it says Kay was blocked for 5 minutes. Kay, I didn't block you for 5 minutes. I don't know what happened. I've never seen that. That's a new one on me. I guess there's some corner of the thing. If you hit it, it blocks a person from being obnoxious. You were never obnoxious. Oh my God. Yeah. Yes, Martin. Yes, Martin. I apparently blocked her by mistake. Oh my God, how annoying is that? Oh my God, yes. I've never even knew there was a way to block somebody for 5 minutes. So, I feel terrible. Kay's one of our good friends. Kay has never been a problem. Oh my God. Coin says, sorry, Kay. Lots of laughs. Come back. Oh my God, that's terrible. And I try to click on it again to unblock, but it won't let me unblock. Anna says, remember the blocking button. That's probably what you need for the trolls we had last week. I did hit the block. Usually when I block somebody, it's permanent, and I see the block and I say, block that person permanently. But I've never seen a 5-minute thing, and I didn't see anything that I hit that blocked poor Kay. Oh my God. Molly says, today the technical issues are at the end of the show. I can't get through a show without screwing up somewhere. This is true. Yeah, the show started well, so now I'm just like going off the cliff here. One screwed up. You can fix it in your creator studio. Well, apparently, Heather, I only blocked her for 5 minutes. So come back, Kay. Come back. I feel bad. It's just terrible. I just can't understand why I can't get her back. You'd think I could do that, but I can't. I can't get to the creator studio when I'm on air. So Christine says, just adding to the mix. Oh my God. Well, I just want to know, I want you all to know that this show is not heavily pre-planned and pre-programmed. And so you get the real deal here, good or bad. And oh my God, it's like, come back, Kay. Yeah, Molly says we have to wait for Kay. No, wait a minute. We have to wait for Kay. She sees us talking. I hope so. Oh my God. Oh, that's where that stupid thing is. So, if there's a little 3 buttons there, and I guess I hit the 3 buttons accidentally somewhere. I don't know. We so love you, Pat. Well, yeah. Thank you, Christine. You're so nice. I mean, I say, if you don't go through life with a sense of humor, you just got to. I mean, you just got to go through life with a sense of humor. I don't know how it would have lasted this long without it. That I'm not exempt from life's little turmoils. I've never been one of those people that said, "Why me?" I'm like, no, the fickle finger of fate. Why not you? Does anybody remember the fickle finger of fate? It was on Rowan and Martin Laughing. And I never really went for the show, but I remember the fickle finger of fate. And you just be going, some guy would be walking along just happy and boom. It's like, crap. Yeah. So, what? That's how Alec Baldwin would block people. What? I don't think I want to go there with that one, Martin. I don't think I want to go there. If Kay can see us talking, Pat, hold up a sign. I say 5 minutes, we'll go back and hopefully is that the name of it? Anna says the flying fickle finger of fate. Oh, I didn't know it had extra things before it. Yeah. Oh, well, what's this? Thanks. Just read defense lawyer Barry Schlotnick story. I will take a picture of that. I've never heard of that. What does that mean? I don't know. What is it? What is his story about? What is his story about? Benny says, thank you for a very educational show, Pat. Looking forward to your views on the Sandra Melgar case. Now, I think I put that on my list, right? I always take pictures of this. Okay, I tell you, I have so many stories to do. But next week I can go back to doing more gruesome stories. That'll be the new year if I'm here. And hopefully I will be. I still feel good, but tomorrow I'll probably take my coronavirus test. And I don't know. I've had 3 contacts within 1 week of 3 symptomatic people, which, but my granddaughter wasn't so symptomatic when I was with her. I was with her on Tuesday, but we watched the Clifford the Big Red Dog story. And so we were watching it on my iPad, and then she was like curled up against me for like 2 hours. And then when they sent Clifford to China, she just burst into tears. She's like, "No, they sent the doggy away." She loves dogs. And so she's like crying all over me and slobbering on me. So I'm thinking, great. So that was one of the days I had contact with her, along with Christmas Day. I'm like, and then the other 2 contacts, I'm just like, oh, thank you, Star, wishing me good health. Oh, thank you very much. We'll just see how it all goes. It's like, I don't know. I'm counting the days now. Obviously I'm in quarantine. I'm not going to go out and infect anybody. So I've been in quarantine since for a couple of days now, and I'm going to be here all week long, just having so much fun in my house. But I bought all this food for Christmas Eve dinner and for Christmas Day dinner, and nobody ate it. So I don't have to go to the store. I can just eat a crap load of food all week long while I'm sitting in my bed watching Netflix and doing research for my next show. Oh my God. Wait a minute, my symptoms are better since the show started. Well, I'm not sneezing anymore. That was just, that's better. I feel pretty good. So, but I'm going to wait. I go to bed at night. That's where you have that fear. You wake up in the morning, you're like, oh my God. So I'll be taking my temperature before I go to bed and take my temperature after. And then I think I've got enough days where it's time to do the old testing tomorrow, and I'll do that and see what that says. But I'm going to quarantine. I have to quarantine for at least probably to the end of the week, because that's just to be fair to other human beings. So I'm not going to go around them. So, yeah. So, thank you, Martin. Thank you very much, Martin. I appreciate that. And yes, I'm doing all of those things. 5-day incubation for Omicron, if I have Omicron and not Delta, if I have either one of them. So I don't know. Don't know. So all I can do is hope that if I do get COVID, it is the lesser dangerous version, which is supposed to be Omicron right now. I hope. And or that I have massive great immunity at the age, my age. We shall see how it all goes. What is that? The boomer moment. I did not have a boomer moment. I don't believe in those things. I mean, it's just, you just have, when you're trying to, if you're talking about me knocking off poor Kay here, there's so many, you're always trying to go down the list really quickly and hit things. And so you just, all you have to do is hit wrongly, and that does you in. But I don't have boomer moments. I'm not a boomer. Anyway, okay, I'm going to cook some of that food I have sitting around my house. I'd invite all of you over because I have so much of it, but then I'd give you COVID maybe. So I won't do that. So, but hopefully I will be here on Wednesday. Okay. Hopefully I will be here on Wednesday. Please let me be here on Wednesday. And if you don't see me on Wednesday or next Sunday, it was nice knowing you. And you will have all my old videos to look at, all my old books to read, So, but anyway, hopefully everybody else also stays safe, because this Omicron stuff is like wildfire, and it's craziness. And I'm hoping it's the less lethal of the variety, and I hope it does take over Delta and it's just less dangerous, and then that eventually makes the pandemic endemic and ends this whole thing. So maybe Omicron is a good thing, but right now I'm not too happy about it, since I'm in the bullseye target right now for that. So anyway, I will see you all on Wednesday who are part of Patreon, and for our live hangout. And then I think I know what I'm going to do next Sunday, but I'm not exactly sure yet. So I just won't say yet. So okay, so that's going to be it for today, and see you next time.